Alright, so now I have changed the stitch plate, right? I changed the stitch plate out, and this is a, right, you just press this, and you push the other one on. Here, I'll do it again. Warning, stitch plate. Push it on. It just kind of fits in. If you look at these two stitch plates, they attach this slightly differently. So like these two things are a little bit offset slightly in the machine. So anyway, this, make sure this is up. That is up. Slides in, press it down. Please make sure proper foot is attached. I also changed the foot so it knows that, you know, we're not doing embroidery right now. We're doing regular stitching. Alright, exit. Use the stylus. Alright, so here's the home screen. This is the home screen for regular sewing. If you want to switch it to embroidery mode, because maybe, and you can edit designs while the arm isn't open. You press this button. This button says sewing, and this looks like, see, a sewing machine with the thing, and it says carriage arm open. Do you want to switch to embroidery mode? Yes, I do. Resume last pattern. It saves your last pattern, whatever you were working on. And okay, let's see if it did it. Please open the carriage arm. If I press OK, it wants me to open the carriage arm because it says, well, you're going to stitch. Now, you don't have to have the carriage arm open. You can just have this on in embroidery mode just to edit. Okay, so, see, I'm sorry for the shakiness, trying to get it good. Now, here I have your designs, monograms, and new edit. So this is your editing screen. It has some pretty okay editing features, like adding things. This is the save, or computer or USB. I don't have the USB attached right now, but this would be the button you would do to USB, and everything saves in this EMBF folder. So if you have a USB and you save it, you go to your computer and you go, oh, where did that design go? Look for the EMBF folder. Or if you want to save a design from your computer to your USB, make sure to save it in the EMBF folder. So I'll just do it on my, I obviously, here's some I have done, edits I have done. Like this, it's loading. It tells you what hoop you need. This is the hoop that you need. This is how many minutes it'll take. This is how many colors it'll take. And based on this speed. This is moving. I want to move it. But I can't move it, right? Because I'm not, this is for moving it. Or going through color by color. This is for tracing the design. This is for seeing what the colors are. Or I can go in the edit window. This is the edit window. This is, of course, trash. This tells you which hoop it works with. It'll only work with this hoop because it's a pretty big design. Right? So this tells you to enlarge it or make it smaller. Big, small, big, small. So do you want to make it bigger or smaller? Now, this does not change the density. So you cannot enlarge it more than 20% or less than 20%. The machine will stop you. And the reason is that if you enlarge it more than that, it'll make your design look weird. This is a mirror image. Mirror image up, down, mirror image left, right. This is a symmetrical design, so it doesn't matter. This is a rotate. I want to rotate it 45 degrees, but it only do that section, so I didn't want to save that. So this is a look in the small section, look in the whole thing. I haven't played with this much because I do all my editing in Sew Up Pro, but this is pretty cool. So this would be to color sort. I want this, and this only works with the designs that came with the machine. So you can combine, like on the machine it has built-in alphabets, like for doing monograms, so you can write a whole word, and then you can do a color sort so that instead of the machine stopping and asking you to change thread after every single letter, it'll stitch out the whole word all in one go. And I want to color sort. And now I only have 4 colors. So it had 16 colors before because these were built-in designs that I put in here. And now it only has 4 colors. So, but that color sort, again, only works for machine. I forget what that is for. This is save the design. I want to save it. This is where you would name your design, right? So you could write the name, press here, and then you could type, but I don't want to save it because I already have it saved, right? Trash. So it's pretty cool because the brother doesn't offer any on-screen editing. So I want to do a monogram. And for this, that's what it does. So I want to, now which letter do I want it? Do I want this one, this one, this one? Oh, I don't want to do anything. I want it in the window. Now I can actually drag and drop. Isn't that cool? And this one says that I can, look, I can use any of these because it's a very small design. So I want it to be in this. And now you can do all kinds of things with it. So I can make it smaller, but you can only make it larger or smaller by 20% because it doesn't recalculate the stitch density. So that messes with it. Now, it lets you do this thing where you do it on a curve. Look, I can do it on a curve. Top curve or a bottom curve. You know. I actually don't like hardly ever monogram. This is like make the letters close together, make them farther apart. So like if you do it on a downward curve, you're going to need to make the letters far apart, right? So isn't that cool? I don't monogram like hardly ever, so it doesn't matter to me, but it might matter to somebody. And this, again, drag or drop it. Or I can use the arrows if I'm like right here, but it's not quite right. So you can like do gross positioning by dragging and dropping, and then micro positioning. So that's way better than the brother. I mean, the PE 770. The more expensive brothers are even have more than this, and that's really super cool. This is to change the color, and it assumes that I want all of them the same color. This of course saves it. You know, delete it. New edit. Now I'm in new edit and I want to add a design. So I click over there and it's that one. Now I just want to move this part so I can drag and drop just this one part. See? Because these were 3 different designs. And it remembers that they were 3 different designs. Until you color sort and tell it that all the thread colors are the same, it remembers that these were 3 different designs. Wow. And you can also zoom in, like if you want to be really precisely positioning something, you can zoom in. It's pretty cool. Which hoops can it be used with? can be used with either of those, but not the smallest. So this has 3 possible hoops with this. There's a 5.5 by 5.5 hoop, there's a 6.7 by 7.9, and then there's a free arm hoop that's like 1.5 by 3 inches to do little designs on like collars and your sleeve cuffs and things. So if I had my USB flash drive, I could add stuff to this. Ooh, edit window, you know, all kinds of things. I forgot how you do this to add letters, but there's a way to add letters like to this screen. I seem to recall. It's been a long time since I actually worked on this machine in the editing, because I do almost all my editing in Sew It Pro, and then just do drag and drop and basic positioning on the machine. But even with that, it's still really helpful to have the screen to be able to see what color I am, what position I am, you know, to do the precise positioning. But I have done a little tiny bit of editing, but like it was a while back. And now I'm done with it. I'm switch back to ordinary sewing mode, and you just press this button. There's a bunch of menus to setting. No, this is a lock screen, so like if you're changing something, you're changing your needles, and you don't want to sew through your hand, you press the lock screen and nothing can happen. This is a set scene, set contrast. There's like a bunch of different menus. How loud do you want the beeps? Are you in inches or millimeters? I'm usually in millimeters because that's what I'm used to on my Viking. Standby timer. How long do you want the screen to be on before it goes blank? Do you need to calibrate the touch screen? Do you need to format your USB? Upper thread sensor on, sewing light on, background color, screen contrast. You know, then in the sewing mode, it's got like what do you want your tension to be? Like you can change your tension here. At what time? Where do you want to set your bobbin thread sensor? Now, when you're doing embroidery, this means this setting is universal for no matter what type of thread you use. So for normal sewing, this sensor means that it stops when there's like hardly any thread left. But when you're doing embroidery, this setting means that there's still actually quite a bit on. Default needle position up or down. Adjustable stop-start speed. How fast do you want it to start when you press the stop-start button? Like, and then with your sewing pedal, do you want there to be a delay or not, or just go out the horse like a racehorse? The cloth guide calibration. That's this thing. This is the cloth guide. Do you want to save the position between, you know, thread cutter after auto lock? Like, do you want it to cut? Like, do you want it to press auto lock and then cut automatically? Yes or no? Like, I can say it's on. So anytime I press the cut button, it'll do. Anytime I press the lock button, anytime, lock, 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 cut. Like every time, I won't need to use the scissor button. Favorite stitch adjustment. I haven't used this at all. Resume mode, like for stitches. Do you want it to, if you have a favorite stitch setting that you always use, like for your straight stitch for piecing, and you go away and you turn it off and you turn it on again, do you want it to remember where that was? So that's actually pretty cool. Embroidery features. Auto tension. I like the tension a little bit tighter. I don't know. Sometimes you need to adjust your tension. Remaining bobbin thread. You know, if you go all the way to off, it'll just let you run out of thread. Sewing machine setting, maximum speed, one stitch stop. I don't remember what that is. Consecutive color grouping should be off. You should do this off because this can get you into a lot of trouble. But I guess it's a nice option if you really know what you're doing. Hoop confirmation should be on, so that that's helpful so that you can't do something stupid like put too large a design in too small a hoop and then, you know, break your needle and have to go in for repairs. Thread cutting advanced. So there's basic thread cutting and then there's advanced, and this lets you pick how long your jump stitch is. Do you want to cut at the end of a color change? Do you want to have a special, and there's custom, so this is really, really cool. This is awesome. The PE 770 does not have the jump stitch cutting. You have to manually cut everything. So this will do it, but you can also turn it off. So I had one design where my, my thread were very long. My stitch length was very long in that embroidery design somehow, so I turned it off so that it wouldn't cut after every single stitch in that design because they were kind of too long. That's really cool. So you can do this here. I don't know what this helps, but some people say that you should at least, set it to Madeira Polyneon if you have polyester thread, or set it to like Robinson Anton rayon if you're using rayon thread, and it'll do something. I don't know that it does. Gridlines, these are for the embroidery edit screen. These are the size of the grid lines. Resume mode, yes, you want this on because, you know, little fingers come in and turn your machine off. You want to be able to get back where you were. And then these are some other settings, like are you in English, or are you in Turkish, Polish, Russian, you know. It's great to have some, it's an international machine, you know. It's, so I want English, basically. Okay, and that's all that one does. I think maybe something else, I don't know. Now, what am I doing? Say I'm doing a zipper. I want to press this shirt. This is, so I'm going to go back. These are stitch selection modes. This tells me my pressure foot pressure. This tells me that I need my feed dogs up. This means that my tension is auto. This is B for straight stitch. This plus minus helps me adjust things, or if I want that that I just pressed, this button, that looks exactly like the cloth guide, but like in miniature form. So this is if I want to use the cloth guide, which just snaps on in one hand. So this is if I want to use the cloth guide. So default, and I can set it 15 millimeters, is approximately 5/8 inch. What? Can you wait? Okay, thank you. No, I don't want my lunch, thank you. So this can turn it on or off, default. Now, this does stitch tension, stitch length, but this is a straight stitch, so obviously the density, this is stitch density, doesn't matter. But this will move the needle position. I don't have a needle in at the moment, but on a straight stitch, 9 millimeters, so I move 4.5 to the right. This does not drag and drop. You have to just press these arrows. You probably can't see any difference because there's no needle there for you to see it. But that's this, in a straight stitch, this changes the needle position. So that's useful for like those zippers, right? I was talking about. This is stitch density or stitch width. There's no stitch density on a straight stitch. Default. Anytime you want to set it back, press default. I want to turn this. I want to put this back. Did you see what I did? Press that back button. Now it's going to go back. Oop, there it goes. I'm done with that. So anytime I want to use that cloth guide, that is super cool. I have used that before. It was super helpful. Really great for doing garments. Really great for garments. I haven't used it so much for quilt piecing, but for garments I used it and it was fabulous because I had like a million miles of stuff to hem with that period costume. Exit. This is for twin needle, and it makes it look like what you would have with the twin needle. Like here's what that would look like with a twin needle. Here's what that would look like with us. One thing I really love about that it shows you what your stitch will look like, more or less. And now I want to adjust the width, but stitch width safety, right? It's saying that you can only have it at so much width because of the twin needle. It won't let you be dumb and break your needle with the twin needle. That's a stitch width safety. So you can only have a maximum of you know, I think you can tell it somewhere what size of a twin needle you're using. I'm not sure. Tension. I want that off. Alright, so these are your decorative applique, heirloom, quilt, satin stitches. This is where the density comes in. If I go here to B, up here, now I've got the density settings, right? This is the stitch width, and I love how it adjusts on the screen. This is a 9mm stitch machine, which I also really love for decorative stitching. I love the Viking for general sewing, and I love to keep this for those wide decorative stitches. This is a pattern repeat, so I want elongation. Elongation with the same density. And that density is grayed out because it's always the same. I haven't done this much. This is for lock stitch. This is for like going around in a circle, or a square, I think. All of these, I think, there's a favorite pattern. There's, I can mirror image it. I can mirror image it. This is if I want to do like this. This is a, alright. Those things, and you can use the guide with this too. Go back. These are how you get to the different pages. Long pictogram. So programming is super easy with this, way easier than the Viking. This is your alphabets, 3 different alphabets. And this is what they call techniques. So I'll go back. This is the techniques menu. So I'm doing something, I'm not just straight stitching or doing decorative stitches. I need to do a specific technique. So seaming. What kind of seaming? Woven, stretch knit, curve, top stitching. And it'll have your stretch knit. Here, it'll tell you. Oop, I need to raise my feet, dog, it says. Was right here. This raises or lowers the feed dog. It said, hey, I think you're getting ready to sew. You should probably put those feed dogs up. Right? So now it tells you, it sets the stitch, light, medium, or heavy. And it tells you what the pressure should be. Feed dog should be up, and it has auto. Go back. Curve. Now it says I need it to be 5. Now this is not automatically set. You have to manually set this. Lock-o-matic stitch locks at the beginning of the end, like it does a reverse, forward and back, and at the end it does the reverse at the beginning, and then at the end when you're done and you want the reverse again, I think you hit the reverse a second time and it does it. Locking stitch does the locking in place stitches rather than the reverse stitches. And then the regular curve. You can see what these settings are. So it's in the middle, and it has a stitch length of 1.5 because you're going around the curve. And you can change that, obviously, if you want to. So this was the seaming menu. It just has one page. Over edge, woven, stretch knit, woven, woven heavy. So these are the 2 different woven, woven heavy. I really like this stitch, actually. So if it has more, you can press here and more will come up. So I want it on this woven, and I can see what those settings are. Now what this does is it makes it closer or wider together, right? So this is the stitch length. Stitch length. Stitch width is set automatically in the menu because it's set to use the specific M foot. It tells you where's your foot you're going to use. You can still use the fabric guide for this, which you wouldn't really need to use because you're doing the over edge. So here's your M foot. You can adjust only this length now because it's set specifically to use the M foot. It tells you the pressure. Let's do stretch knit. Tells you to reduce the pressure. Okay, M foot still heavy. It still has you use the M foot. A lot of machines want you to go back to like the B, the decorative foot, but the I'll show you again. This foot is really heavy duty, and it's got like 2, 3 different pins. I love this foot. It's a great foot. I like it better than the Viking foot. I think about 70% of the time I like the Viking feet better for sewing, except for certain applications when I really prefer the Elna feet, like zippers and like the over edge. And I know that Viking has different zipper feet, but I don't like any of them. I don't mean to say I hate them, that they're not useful, I just don't like them. And now this one, zipper, lapped zipper, concealed zipper. So this one actually you can just use the A foot because there's enough of a gap here that you could probably get the zipper right there, or you could do it on the sides. But it tells you, are you basting the zipper in? Are you doing the right teeth? Now you need to use a concealed zipper foot, Z. I think I have this foot, so it wants you to use the concealed zipper foot. Are you doing the stitch tape? Stitching a tape zipper, like stitching the tape, then you can use the E foot. The left tape, you know, it has every single step. That's really great. It has every single step, so if you don't really know what you're doing, it'll teach you how to do the zipper through this. Lock-o-matic, baste your zipper in, left side sew, right side sew, right? Again, pressure at 5. Here's the foot you want to use. I'm going to do sewing techniques, gathering at 5, but now look at the tension. It's all the way 1 instead of usually your tension's like at 4. So in your gathering, you don't want the needle tension to be too much. Use stitching, put it at 5, and that shows you tension is different. Your different settings. You want the longer stitch length so that you can pull it. Rolled hem. What are you want a zigzag rolled hem like for a tricot edge, 4 or 6 millimeter. It's pretty cool. So I like this machine. If this were my only machine for sewing, other than that this throat space is a little bit smaller for quilting, this is still pretty good. This is like almost 9 inches. Almost 9 inches from here to here. But compare that same hand to the Viking. The Viking's like 11 inches, so I got like 2 more inches. The Viking's bigger, which is good for quilting, but you know, I have quilted pretty well on this because this is taller too, so you can really bunch up a lot of fabric. The Viking has the auto tensions and the auto pressure foot pressure, which is really great for quilting. Basting, it has a lot of stuff. This is a really great machine. Of course, Janome has updated the Janome machine for this, so now instead of the Janome 9900, there's the Skyline S9, which does embroidery, or the S series. I guess the S7 is the non-embroidery version, and then the S9 is the embroidery version, but it's still pretty much like the 9900, just with some extra features. But I don't think Elna has upgraded this model yet, so it's still the current model. Quilting patchwork menu. It sets the stitch length. Do you want, and it's right here. Length will be memorized. I've not seen how that will be useful, but some people must find it useful or they wouldn't have it. Use the O foot, pressure at 5, and here's the stitch length at 1.8. Some people like shorter for like if you're doing paper piecing or something, but it has a patchwork menu and it automatically sets your 1/4 inch foot. Quilting, straight stitch quilting, Frigo quilting, like hand look, like sculpture quilting. You know, it's got really like sashiko stitch. That's unique. I've not seen that anywhere else. All of your stitches are also additionally, you know, they've got pictures of them up here. Satin, bridge, decorative, buttonhole, applique, heirloom. Heirloom, some of those would be done like with a wing needle. So it's pretty cool. I'm really happy with this machine, and especially the price I got it, but it does so many things. Even as it's just a sewing machine, this is a great machine. So I hope you enjoyed my videos.